Hi, my name is Mel Orpilla, and I am the president of the Vallejo chapter of the Filipino-American National Historical Society, or FONS for short. And we're one of 28 different chapters throughout the United States. And I started it back in 1992, I think it was, because at that time I just realized that Vallejo had this great, rich Filipino-American history. And it was only because I took a class at Sac State, even though I grew up in a family and in a community where it was all around me. And in many cases, I just kind of took it for granted, not knowing the context of that history in the bigger picture of American history and Filipino-American history. My own father came to America in 1926 as a 20-year-old from the Philippines. He had a 6th grade education. He could read, write, and speak English. And most Filipinos at that time could do that because the United States took over the Philippines and established an American public school system there where English was taught to everybody throughout the Philippines. So my father, like the thousands that came around that same time, got jobs as laborers either in the farms, in canneries, or as domestic workers. But here in Vallejo, they got jobs at Mare Island Naval Shipyard. And Mare Island was hiring Filipinos because they spoke good English, and they were hard workers, and they were American nationals. They didn't have an immigrant status here in the United States at that time period. So when I learned all of that history, as well as the history of discrimination against those Filipinos in that time period when my father first arrived, it angered me, but it as well made me want to move to action to make sure that this history and some of those racist actions never happen again to Filipinos in America today. And that's why just this year, Senator Leland Yee's office contacted me through the Filipino-American National Historical Society to help write the language for his Senate Concurrent Resolution number 48, which is the Filipino-American History Month bill for the state of California. And that passed both the Senate and the Assembly on September 9th this year. So now it's official for the first time this October. The state of California is celebrating October as Filipino-American History Month, and every October from here on will be celebrated as Filipino-American History Month. Right now in Congress there is another bill, H.R. 780, which is going through the process, and hopefully we will also be celebrating Filipino-American History Month officially on a national basis, if not this year, for sure by next year. So in Vallejo, we celebrate Filipino-American History Month by celebrating the community. And the community really are the families who built this beautiful Filipino community here starting at the turn of last century. And so today we're standing in the Bayanihan Center, which is a project of Seafood City, to have this great photo exhibit, what we call telling our stories, or honoring our past by telling our stories. And these are pictures of families from old Vallejo. Some of them have been here as early as 1913, and how they grew up here in Vallejo. So a lot of these people I call uncle and auntie and cousins, and you can see many of the pictures of the little kids, and these were some of the first generation Filipino kids born in Vallejo. Of course today we have lots and lots of them. In this picture here we have 5 generations of one Filipino family who are related to me, and they're still, I think they're at 6 generations now here in Vallejo, the Argonza family. So they were one of the pioneer families. Grandma Argonza actually came here as a nanny of a naval officer who was stationed in the Philippines, and then settled in Vallejo, where she married her husband, and who was a relative of my father. And they ran a boarding house where the single Filipino men lived while they worked at Mare Island. So my father, when he arrived here, he lived in a boarding house run by the Juliana family on Carolina Street, and that's where he and probably a dozen other Filipino men lived in shifts while they worked at Mare Island, because Mare Island was a 24-hour-a-day facility. So you'd have the day shift, the swing shift, and the graveyard shift. So when the graveyard shift was working, the day shift was sleeping in the beds, and when the day shift was working the graveyard shift was sleeping in the beds. And that was really their extended family for a long time, because many of these men stayed single until the late 50s or early 60s, because there were very few Filipino women, single Filipino women here in America.